pointing the blame at the billionaires, so i.e. the most productive people in society, pointing the blame at them instead of the power vectors and those faculties that control this system through government and legislation. That's a huge, huge error. Like, that's a massive error, and it's a complete misunderstanding of how the world actually works. Try becoming a billionaire. That's fucking working hard. It's every hour, every minute of every day, of every second. It's all the time. It's relentless. To these people, we should be so grateful for the billionaires and the millionaires. We should be clapping them down the aisle, rolling out the red carpet, because that is the mentality shift that's needed in the UK. This concept from the Greens and the lefts that the public sector is going to solve anything, it never ever has. The economy will disappear, and then the whole country implodes and there's no food on the shelves. It's simple, but they don't get it. Welcome back to your favourite episode of the Ground Up Podcast, episode 97. You've got the best looking half, the smartest half, the coolest half,
tallest half,
and the shortest half, the most average.
the two that speak the best mother tongue as well.
Best mother tongue.
You've got Stu with his Essex boy accent, and then on the contrary, you've got Bar Dorian sheep.
Black sheep.
That's
kind of Irish.
That's the second accent you've done wrong this morning.
But look, it's going to be an amazing episode without those two here. So get ready for this, guys. And I'm really tired because I've got an ulcer and I didn't sleep at all. So I'm here. I'm cracking on. We've just prepped the podcast. But it's going to be a good one today because we're going to be ranting about the Green Party and their disgusting behaviour, and also how Jack is facing criminal prosecution right now, which is not so good. We're going to go into the weeds of that. Why not? And a bit of market stuff as well, a bit of biz updates, AI updates as well. Guys, my new system, groundbreaking, is phenomenal. Want to try and help as many people out as possible who want to do the setup, because I know Jack asked me a specific question on the podcast last week. How do you set it up? And I just ranted on about how great it is and didn't actually explain it. So I will do a bit of an explanation at some point today. But first, let's just, maybe for any new viewers, we're 4 property developers based in the UK, and we get around the mic every week and we talk about property, business, news, stuff that should be useful. If you're in the space, make sure you subscribe. We appreciate it massively. Stuart, oh, bless him. Stuart, one of the guys who's on the podcast with us, broke his shoulder skiing. Dorian should hopefully be here. Dorian's gone for a tricky first couple of months this year, as he explained last week. So he might shed some more light this episode or in a future episode. But sometimes that's the way in business. It can just be bloody difficult.
All hands on the pump.
All hands on the bump, mate. I had 2 years of that.
Best leaders go to the front line when needed.
Needed. But anyway, Jack, speaking of leaders, you are now a criminal.
Apparently, according to some. So, I thought I'd share the story because it's interesting. So I'm doing a planning application for a house which will hopefully be a forever home one day. So building our own place. The backstory is it's an already consented site that I got planning on, but then pivoted and were planning to build it for myself. So I wanted to make some significant changes. So this new application has got some changes, not loads, to be fair. The envelope of the building is exactly the same within reason, but I've just changed a lot of design features to cater for me personally, me and the family. And the application kept getting delayed and pushed back. The tree officer, which is in question, had already basically recommended for approval. And then last knockings, I get a new web comment, which is like obviously when you do a planning application, it goes to local and relevant consultants. So relevant consultants within the council or advisories, and then obviously local people, which is fine. And the opening comment was, since I commented on the previous application, it has now come to light via this amended application that the applicant has taken it upon themselves to remove T1 and T2 trees without seeking permission from the council.
Oh, no.
Despite these trees being to a tree preservation order, this constitutes a criminal offence, and the council will therefore be considering what action to take in light of the contravention.
You bad boy. Such a bad boy, Jack.
And obviously you read that and you're like, oh shit, got to unpick this one. He's correct in the matter that the 2 trees that had a tree preservation order have been removed, but I felt I had good grounds to argue. And in all fairness to this tree officer, I pinged him quite a firm email showing my evidence of why I believed that they could have been removed. And he basically rang me back straight away. He actually called me while I was on the phone with, while I was in a meeting with investors. And I literally had to say, can we pause this, go grab a coffee? Because I want to deal with this immediately. My architect, because it was a legacy architect, so I wasn't using Aura, was literally shitting himself. He was like, I've never seen anything like it. The way it actually transpired is, and it's quite comical the way it unfolded. And I do hold my hands up and say kudos to the tree officer for ringing me, because he could have left it to unwind.
Tree officer. Listen to what you're saying. Tree officer.
Mate, someone's got to office those trees.
It's fucking wild.
Have you ever walked around the UK thinking, someone's got this under control? That tree is...
Look, I understand. A tree conservationist, I'm all for. A tree officer is an authority. There's an absolute fucking stupidity. Like, it is just so mental. If you said to civilization 100 years ago, imagine like 200 years ago, a fucking tree officer is going to come around and arrest you. Like, it's so funny, like how stupid the world has become. Sorry, mate.
It's so funny. Before I put my head into the detail to like basically litigate this issue just between us and obviously the council, I told my wife, and she was like a little bit worried and like, oh God, don't want Jack going to prison for cutting down a few trees.
On your land?
Yeah.
On your f***ing land?
It was funny. And then my wife spoke to my mum, and it's just completely summarizes my mum. My mum's response was, well, it's good that's the only thing they're concerned about. I was like, what? That is not a good thing. The only thing they can put me in jail for there is what they're worried about. But anyway, so to unfold the story, this tree officer rings me. The coincidental slip up, I would say, or thing that was missed is in the previous application, we proposed removing those 2 trees and planting loads of new trees. The previous application, I discharged all the conditions to the point of starting the work. So technically, I can do what I need to do on that application. The removal of the 2 trees was consented, but technically that isn't then applicable to remove those trees until you've discharged the conditions, and it actually falls in suit for if the conditions are the trees are removed last. Then I would have been erring on the side of danger. But I discharged all the conditions, I removed the trees, planted new, and showed all the evidence from the previous application. One thing I was really confused about, I was like, how the f did he know? Like, he can't get in that site. It's secure. Like, unless he eyeballed it from the road, but it's quite deep in the site. But anyway, I then showed him an amended plan. Basically, what happened is that our tree arboriculturalist that submitted the proposed plans had drawn up the scheme. And rather than go back to them and them charge me £1,000 to remove the trees from the drawing, I did a little summary key section on the right-hand side myself. So I overlaid it on their drawings, which I got their consent to do, because I didn't think we needed to go back to the DWG files and edit all of them. And I basically made a key and I just draw arrows. I was like, remove, keep, and like coded them to the right trees and blah, blah, blah. And I said to the tree officer, if you pull up that drawing, which was submitted in November 2020, and look on the right-hand side of the key, it says there that they're to be removed quite clearly. And he was like, oh, yeah, it does. Okay, fine. Sorry, my mistake. And that was it.
Literally, his one job as the tree officer is to be right. His one job. Be right, mate. And he's not even right. He's just throwing around accusations and wanted to arrest people for cutting down trees.
It was a little bit frustrating for their first port of call to be.
Fucking hate these people, man.
Like, realistically, the old school ways of planning is, in that scenario, the tree officer would have just called me, been like, shit, I think he's removed 2 trees he shouldn't have here. I'll ring Jack and have a chat with him. And then I would have been like, oh no, that's part of the old application. Look at this drawing. Cool. But for me, like it's like almost like character defamation, like accusations of criminal offences online. I know I'm sharing it on a public portal of YouTube, but I've obviously explained the rebuttal.
You're making him out to be a dickhead now, so it's all
No,
right.
I'm not. I'm not. I've not said
He
that.
is a
You said
dickhead.
that.
Well, I'd say
Um,
he's a dickhead. He's a
couldn't see
dickhead.
the wood between the trees. We got him. We got him all day long. He's tremendous. What else we got? He was barking up the wrong tree. But he,
Oh, cool.
you know, and I suppose this sort of amplifies the problem around planning. Like back in the day, you could do a pre-app in 20 days. You could get on site, speak to people, really see the whites of their eyes, and agree something logical that was easy. It made it all of the steps later on. We just had a second planning application on one of our sites for 2 new build houses rejected. We submitted it. It was rejected. We took it to appeal. It was rejected. We submitted again. And rather than saying, if you tweak these designs, they just rejected it. But they said that in the decision notice. So we've now got to go through the whole process again, which they know we're going to do because we've already done 3 attempts at this to appease their points and get it done. So,
Mate, it's like I was saying to you earlier, you know, I know someone who's going for a big application to build all these brand new apartments on a defunct commercial site. It's taken ages through planning so far anyway. And now at this point, they're stopping things and the planners are going, we need a dust survey. And I'm just like, a fucking dust survey. A dust survey. Like it just, you know, the legislation is stupid when it just sounds so fucking stupid. Like a dust survey. Now, for the layman, you might also be thinking this is like the layman to property development. You may be thinking that does sound really stupid. It is really stupid. There is a genuine issue of dust on site where obviously if you're not careful of how much dust you're mitigating into the atmosphere, then you could stick dust all over someone's house if you're cutting down concrete and trees and whatever. So it's a fair point that you should get a dust survey to make sure you're being reasonable, but it should not be stopping 40 apartments from being built for months on end because you need a dust survey. Like our planning system is just so stupid. The legislators, the government, the whole thing needs to be burnt to the ground.
I hope you're enjoying the episode. We'll be back to it in just a second. If you are a property developer, property investor, property professional, architect, contractor, and want to do deals like these, head over to the link in our description where you can find out more information about the Ground Up Network, which is a community to support business growth all the way from zero to hero.
do you know how they do a dust survey?
Go on, please tell me. It must be
They come
hard.
to site and go, "Good morning. Oh, this is a lovely site." And then they, I've got to go like this. Got to go like this. You just go like this. Yep, that's pretty dusty.
That's pretty dusty, boys. I think you should hoover that.
Yeah. You know what we should do with the dust surveyors? Just pick up a bit of fabric, crack it in front of them, and be like, "Does that smell like asbestos to you?"
Honestly, I just can't believe it.
Someone else on the call, don't we?
Mate, we have lost our way. You got the 2 naughty ones as well. So like,
Imagine like my daughter bringing a bloke home and being like, "So,
it's a dust survey.
yeah, so Dustin, so what do you do?" I'm actually a surveyor. Oh, cool, nice. We have surveyors that work in our business. What do you have a particular specialism? Yeah, dust actually.
No,
Cool.
stop it. Really?
Dustin the dust surveyor.
It's too early for this shit. Fucking hell. It's so stupid. I just can't believe it. And the costs of these things is crazy. Just
Imagine living with a geezer. Imagine pulling out the sofa and him going, "Oh, well,
Fucking hell,
we gotta leave. We gotta leave."
get a survey done. Mate, honestly though. But like,
You wait till I tell everyone in the office about this. I knew this would happen when you pulled out that sofa to hoover it.
honestly though, like, because what makes this so funny is that the average person that isn't in property development doesn't understand it, thinks that we're really greedy and make all this money, and they've got no idea about the tripes and bullshit of this sector. And we've talked about a tree officer trying to prosecute you who couldn't read a report in the first place, and then a dust surveyor holding up 40 apartments. Like, that's the problem. That's why it's so expensive, because all these things are time, costs, delays, complexities. It's just so unnecessary. Like, sites should just be to me, if you own the land and you want to cut down some trees, except for certain particular trees like a sequoia or a great British oak, like those sort of trees, yeah, maybe there should be a local discussion with neighbors, people who are immediately impacted by the removal of that tree. They should be spoken with. But the idea that there's surveyors that can prosecute you and fine you and all this shit for cutting down trees on your own land, when literally that's what we did for millennia to be able to build our homes and fuel our fireplaces and give us energy and all that kind of shit. And you look at what happens in all kinds of other countries where they're cutting down trees like as an industry, and then we're preventing our whole built environment because of trees. It's so broken, man. At some point the system's got to crack. Like, it's just got to.
We talked about it probably about 40 episodes ago, the whole railway line of, what's it called? HS2?
HS2. Yeah, oh, mate,
Yeah, that's
fucking bat tunnel.
Yeah, we talked about their bat tunnel, which is so the average property price in the UK is £300,000. And I'm saying this if you haven't seen that episode. The average property price in the UK is £300,000. HS2 is going through basically a woodland that has 72 bats, I think, within this woodland. And we're not removing the whole woodland, we're removing a channel of it. And the ecologists of the world have decided to build a bat tunnel, which is costing £300,000 per bat.
£100 million tunnel.
Yeah, so we're housing bats over people.
Yeah, and bear in mind, there's still woodland. They could still go and fucking live in the woods.
Oh yeah, most of them live in house roofs, which is why again there's a problem with. Back in my roofing days, you'd always find dead bats. We actually used to do a little trick where, when you're a roofer, you have a nail pouch. You only really need 2 tools. You don't need a brain. You need a hammer and a nail. But what we used to do with the dead bats is put them in other people's pouches. So when they're reaching for another nail, they pull out a dead bat. It's a good trick, that one.
That is good. I like that. But I mean, yeah, anyway, like, we could go on forever about complaining about planning, so let's not go there. Instead, let's complain about the economy.
Sure, so I haven't got another criminal offence looming. The bat was already dead when we did that trick.
Yeah.
Just wanted to be explicitly clear on
We're
that.
not going around killing bats for jokes, all right?
Yeah. And we always washed our hands on site.
HSC. Fucking hell, mate. It's just wild. But anyway, John Lewis, let's get on to this topic, because this is relevant to the things we've been chatting shit about for about 20 minutes. So John Lewis scraps a £500 million deal to build 1,000 rental homes. The retailer said fundamental shift in economic conditions made it hard for financial partner Aberdeen to raise funds. Jack, you read this article, do you want to give it a little bit of finesse, mate?
It's obviously quite common that businesses like John Lewis, British Airways, set up like investment trusts, almost like their own independent, like investment arm, family office type thing. Obviously, John Lewis were pulled into a deal which they were funding. And what I find really interesting about this article is like all of the problems with why they're pulling out of this site. They had a few sites, Bromley, Reading, and West Ealing. It's just confidence in the projects, which is not actually the problem with the project. The projects haven't changed, but the macroeconomics behind the project, such as affordability for first-time buyers and renters, cost of building, cost of finance, cost of all these fees that we're actually talking about. Like, to build 1,000 homes in the UK, I would hazard a guess that the planning costs alone are about 10 mil. Like, if you actually work out just to get the consent to build that out, is probably about 10 mil. So all of these inflationary costs in various things, requirements, but also inflationary costs. That works out about 10k a unit, which is probably about right. It's just ridiculous. I actually was reading through the reasons, because I don't know if anyone else does it out there, but as an SME developer, I like to look at and monitor other developers that are doing more slightly bigger stuff, or even the. Hopefully, you can't hear my daughter screaming.
Yeah, no, you can hear that, mate.
She's in dinosaur mode at the moment. Little arms, Yeah, basically, John Lewis are concerned about the cost of borrowing, so the debt that's stacked on top of their equity slash capital outlay that's initially inflationary measures and rising cost of construction. So delivering 1,000 units, that's probably a 5-year program at the very least. So you're riding that potential risk, and the fact that it's less stable and cautious. And now one thing I found really interesting about this is a common backup strategy for building new homes to sell is building new homes to rent. And these were build to rent schemes. So I would say these are the more less risky or more secure exit position than build to sell, because obviously you're taking market risk. So the financials probably just don't stack up. The rents haven't gone up as much as the other inflationary measures to make it worthwhile. And the cost of finance needs to come down lower to bolster that growth. So what I would like the government to take away from this, if John Lewis can't do it with their backing, how are SME developers supposed to be able to do this? Cost of finance needs to come down. Support for first-time buyers and renters needs to be implemented. Transactional costs need to be reduced. Stamp duty and land tax needs to be changed so that it's more efficient to get that through. And all of this stuff that we've talked about with bats, trees, dust, needs to be eased. Otherwise, you just will get people that are not developing. It's like Donald Trump back in like the 80s completely pulled out of New York because it came so difficult to get anything from a ticket perspective. He basically said, I can't do this. There's too much compliance and request of what's going on.
It's tragic, mate. It's tragic, the state of the country. Like, it's tragic that this is where we're at, where businesses just can't do shit because of government measures. Like, it's government getting in the way. Like, it just feels tyrannical. And that's why we're going to talk about the next thing, which is the Green Party, which is just the most stupid concept ever that the Green Party even exists. But let's go. As you can tell, don't like the Green Party. I'm pretty sure Jack doesn't like the Green Party, but I won't speak for you, Jack. Do you like the Green Party?
You're so right wing.
You're such a racist. Let's have a look at this, because there's been a pretty groundbreaking moment for Labour, which, you know, if anything, is kind of somewhat a good thing. But the concept of the Greens running the country, that's when the bond market goes boom and the country implodes. Like, this is just wild. So the Green Party wins Gorton and Denton by-election, with Labour pushed into third by Reform, and it is this lady, Hannah Spencer. She beat Matt Goodwin, which I think is interesting because Matt Goodwin's obviously doing well for Reform. Matt Goodwin got... So this is the Gorton and Denton by-election, which is in the Manchester area, so the northwest. And yeah, the Greens have won well above Labour. So they've won that... that local constituents, which is interesting, and won it by 41%. Matt Goodwin at 29%, Labour then at 26%, and Conservatives 2%, and is pretty much irrelevant from there on out. But this is one of the big worries. This is one of the big concerns, and I don't say this politically, and I just want to reaffirm that I couldn't give a single shit about left, right. That whole spectrum to me is just completely irrelevant. The only spectrum that matters is what's good for the country and what's not good for the country on a common sense and meritocratic basis. That is all that matters. I don't give a shit about right, far left policy. None of it means anything. It's all being politically charged by the elites to make us squabble and fight over absolute nonsense. All there is common sense. And now let's play the clip of Hannah Spencer as to why the Greens are just so far gone. I mean, Labour's already far gone, but the Greens, Zach Polanski, this whole party is a scary concept to be in power, very scary concept to be in power. So here is a short video of Hannah Spencer at her inauguration speech. Let's hear what she's got to say.
We do. Except things have changed a lot over the last few decades, because working hard used to get you something. It got you a house, a nice life, holidays. It got you somewhere. But now, working hard, what does that get you? Because talk to anyone here and they will tell you The people who work hard but can't put food on the table, can't get their kids' school uniforms, can't put their heating on, can't live off the pension they worked hard to save for, can't even begin to dream about ever having a holiday, ever. Because life has changed. Instead of working for a nice life, we're working to line the pockets of billionaires. We are being bled dry. And I don't think it's extreme or radical to think working hard should get you a nice life.
That is a lot of unpacking.
But let's start with the first bit. The first bit is yes, it is hard. Life is hard. Always has been very, very, very hard. It's always been much harder than it is today. So let's just make sure that's clear. Life is a hell of a lot easier today than it ever has been. But yes, life is difficult. Life is, it's meant to be hard. Like nature wasn't put here to go, here's the cosmos, the universe, all these things that can kill you, tigers that can eat you, viruses that can kill you, all these things. But we really want you to have a good time. Like, that's not how the world is. The world wasn't built to appease us. It's here, and it's a difficult place. It's a meritocratic place. That's how it should be. It should be a free market where you work hard for your stripes. And absolutely, I agree with her that in that vein, there are hardworking people who are disenfranchised by the state and by the banking system and by the central elites. I don't disagree with that. The pointing the blame at the billionaires, so i.e. the most productive people in society, pointing the blame at them instead of the power vectors and those faculties that control this system through government and legislation, that's a huge, huge error. Like, that's a massive error, and it's a complete misunderstanding of how the world actually works, because Elon Musk is not disenfranchising people. He is empowering, enabling the human species and taking us to new frontiers. Richard Branson, you could go on and on about billionaires who've helped to level up industries, create many, many jobs at huge risk and huge sleepless nights and stress. You want to talk about working hard? Try becoming a billionaire. That's working hard. It's every hour, every minute of every day, of every second. It's all the time. It's relentless.
I've got an interesting stat about that, which I think is really, really relative. So the data shows in the UK, there's only 150 billionaires, which what like a complete segue point, how this lady thinks 150 people are going to change this UK issue is beyond me. It's a bit like, imagine if you had 60 million people stood around a pull rope of like a country. Picture it as a pull rope. And some people just are, I don't need to pull, he needs to pull. And then you get 150 people out of 60 million on the rope pulling it. It's just, even if you could pull a millimeter or something, it's worth it. But one thing I quickly wanted to say about billionaires, this is actually the opposite way around for millionaires, but the stats show that 70% of billionaires in the UK, so that's probably about 100 out of the 150 within reason. I know we might get some keyboard warriors there questioning my maths, are self-made. So they've had the same opportunities as everyone else in the UK, but they've grafted for it. So, and you've even talked about the like flair of value that they're giving on the way, the people they've been.
James Dyson, mate. James Dyson. The man was in a shed for 10 years building permutation after permutation after permutation after permutation of a Hoover, and then got it right. And you go read James Dyson's book and Richard Branson's book, and these people go and actually, this is the thing to these people, like, and unfortunately it's a lot of young people as well that support the Greens because they're the ones who've been disenfranchised. But I completely agree that it should be solved. But the solution that they're trying to advocate for, more state power, communist and socialist ideals, that the billionaires, that the people who've done well should be giving back to other people for free when they already pay so much in taxes. It's already so unfair for uber rich people. In terms of just, if you want a fair and equal society, surely taxes should be proportionate. The issue is that government is half the size of the economy, and the private sector is subsidizing that whole thing. And now you want more of the very thing that sucks the lifeblood out of the private sector. It is the private sector being enabled and cut the chains and the taxes and cut the legislation and the bullshit from the top down, from the power vectors. There's power vectors and central elites who control policy, who want power. They want to control people. And then you've got people who are out there who just want to build stuff. and progress humanity, progress goods and services and businesses. Those become the billionaires. And sometimes, yes, they do go a bit rogue and they might collude with power vectors to try and create monopolies within sectors. And yes, that's bad, but it's the power people that allow that to happen because they're getting the revolving door and the backhandlers. So we want smaller power vectors. We want smaller state because then the proceeds and the profits of those billionaires and everything they build will trickle down and everyone gets paid more. Everyone's got better lives, got better goods and services, and cut the banking ability and the governments to be able to just print money to pay for their deficits, to pay for this overbloated public sector. That is the core problem, and it's why young people feel disenfranchised. It's got all to do with billionaires being greedy. Everyone's greedy. Everyone wants more money. Everyone wants more and more and more all the time. That's not an issue in society. The issue is distorting the free market. And that's what the Greens are advocating for, and they just don't get it. And some of them, I'm sure, really well-intentioned, but they've just got zero intellectual understanding of how these big problems come to be and just point the blame nice and easily because it feels virtuous to go, billionaires are evil, as opposed to going, actually, there's a systematic issue that needs to be solved. And the very thing you're advocating for, bigger state, more central control powers, giving free things to people, all of that costs money, and it comes from the productive people in society. So what will happen is those people get squished even more, the economy will disappear, and then the whole country implodes and there's no food on the shelves. It's fucking simple, but they don't get it. Anyway, that's my rant on it.
It also annoys me that she's targeted billionaires because I would almost argue out of those 70% of billionaires that have been self-made, the only reason that they are self-made is because they have a passion. To be a billionaire, you've got to be so resilient and so passionate about your purpose and what you're doing. You have to become a millionaire a million times. So it's like they're not doing it to have a cushy life. They've already done that. They've already got that 99% ago. They're just fighting the fight and passionate about what they're delivering, or whether it's a product, service, people around them. Most billionaires are philanthropists. They support, they grow, they inspire. If you look at a really successful company that's got a really diverse workforce of 5,000 people, when have you ever heard someone go, I'm not sure about that, he's right wing? You don't talk about that. You talk about commercials. You talk about people leaning into their strengths. And I think I just hate the tagging of right wing, left wing.
Oh, I hate it.
I would just rather the UK was more commercialized and focused on commercials, because their emotion tends to favor weaker decisions. And that is the attitude of socialism. You're basically going, well, let's see how everyone feels about this. Yeah. And I actually, to come back to your point of like, the workforce and like people not having to work, I don't have an issue with the taxpayer supporting people that can't work. The problem in the UK is the phrase can't. There's people that say, oh, I can't work, and it's just their attitude. And there's people that say, I can't work because they do have a disability that enables them to not be able to work. Fine, support them. But people are taking the piss because it's easier. And when you actually look at, I saw a side by side probably about a year ago, where it shows like how hard you've got to work to seek the same benefit of claim in the market space. And there's just some people that just go, oh, I'll just do that, it's easier.
It's wild, mate. Like this Green Party entitlement mentality, but like from the top, to use the virtue of it to then completely manipulate the younger generation into thinking that, Zach Polanski and what he's saying, and just a whole load of just these super leftist socialists around the world just saying, we'll give you loads of free stuff. We'll just give you it all. You get everything. Just vote for us. Put me in power because I really want power, but I'll give you loads of shit for free. And it's like, no, you won't. Like, just again, to double down on that point, just for anyone listening who maybe doesn't fully understand how the economics of that works. The public sector, anything that's given for free to the user, like the NHS, it's not free. None of it is free. It might be free at the point of transaction, but the whole thing, everything in the public sector is supported by the private sector. Now, what does that mean? It's the businesses that work for profit because they need to survive, and they need to so they can pay taxes that support this massive over-bloated public sector. And in the same time of just paying for that, they're having to dance around all the legislations and all of the inefficiencies that this public sector morass creates. So these people, we should be so grateful for the billionaires and the millionaires. We should be clapping them down the aisle, rolling out the red carpet, because that is the mentality shift that's needed in the UK. Because it's those people that grow society and make lives better and provide more jobs and make good, pragmatic, commercially minded decisions and fight against the public sector morass to make sure that the economy can prosper and that people's lives are better. This concept from the Greens and the lefts that the public sector is going to solve anything, it never ever has. And any time we've tried to, it's ended up in either mass genocides like communism has caused, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people dead, because when people get desperate, then you get fractionalized extremism on both sides, and then there's wars over it and civil wars and prosecution and racism, and all this stuff really does start to come out because people are desperate. We just don't need that. Just enable the private sector. It's so simple. If more people make money in the private sector, they can pay for more things, and all that trickles into the economy, and everyone gets richer, wealthier, and more prosperous. It's just so straightforward. But to blame the billionaires, to blame the kind of trophy assets of the private sector who inspire so many people to go and build companies and do things, of which me and Jack are two of those exact people, and Dorian and Stuart and other business owners take so many risks, the sleepless nights, the stresses, the sacrifices, not seeing your friends, not seeing your family, what you need to do to be able to be successful, especially now with how difficult it is a massive, massive undertaking. I'm not saying nurses don't work hard. I'm not saying bricklayers don't work hard, or Hannah Spencer, who claims she's now a plasterer and a tradie and things like that. Yes, they work hard, but you make a decision in life to choose whether you're going to do a commodity labor trade or whether you're going to, take a risk and do something where there is no job security. You're going to build jobs. And it fails a lot of the time, and it's very, 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 very painful. And some people can waste most of their life trying to build stuff, and it doesn't work out. But if it does work out, then yes, you get a disproportionate upside because you've taken huge risks and you're trying to move the world forwards. If you decide that you want to be a nurse and you want a pound per hour task, it's an honourable profession. There's no taking away from that. But at the end of the day, you're not adding disproportionate value to the economy. You're serving a job and you're getting paid for that job. So you can't then go, well, the billionaires are making so much money. It's like they're different functions. That's not the way. The world doesn't work that way. It's just, and they want it to work that way. And that's socialism and communism. And it's got to be, that mentality has to be killed. Like in, not the people, right? Let's just be clear. The mentality has to be killed in the UK because we've lost who we were. We were the adventurers, the people that built the world and exported the judiciary and companies and all these great things we've done, and now you just got these armies of people that want shit for free and are entitled, and it's sad to see. It's sad to see.
I think calling them armies is a little bit generous. One thing I like to sometimes, because sometimes when you meet people that have contrary views, like socialists, for example, that are like, why doesn't everyone live the same? And I'm like, why doesn't everyone work the same? When you engage with those types that feel that there's just like almost like a free money tree that's just creating money, whereas actually there's people out there planting seeds for generations to come. I like to picture, I wonder what they'd do if they won 5 million in the lottery. So if you look at like something, Dyson, for an example, he'll probably invest it into his business, probably give it away to charity, in all fairness, because he'd probably feel that he's already secure and doesn't need to do anything with it. Give it back to where it came from, because he's like, actually, the lottery is actually technically a donating charity. And then if you compare it to the people that are like, why should we work? Everything needs to be spread. They'd probably buy a house for themselves, selfish, pay off their mum's mortgage, selfish, and then almost run out of money at some point within the next few years and actually be back in a position where they're not secure or supporting the country. So I'm just massively commercialized on this.
The stats favour that, don't they, about the amount of lottery winners who go back to being bankrupt or broke or just the way they work, because they don't know how to spend money. Like, they don't know how to. Capital allocation is a huge intellectual pursuit. To know how to allocate capital, get a good return rate on it, it takes years and years of mastery. Like, it's just not comparable to being a bricklayer or to being a nurse and things like that. And again, it's not to put down those professions. They're a necessity in society until we have robots and things like that, which is another conversation. But anyway, let's stop ranting about this. Let's talk about AI, Jack, because I've got some updates that I could give.
Artificial intelligence.
Intelligentsia. So, right, moving away from politics and going on to business, stuff that actually helps the economy. And here's us about to disseminate some information that hopefully helps other people move the needle for everyone else. So, I have on the last podcast talked about using these new AI bots, and literally every minute of every day, from waking up and looking at my phone to I've been up till midnight every day, and like up at 6 and just non-stop between trying to do day-to-day work stuff on this thing with my laptop on one side, building and building software platforms. And I am absolutely sure, like absolutely sure, that I have built the best in class ever sales tool, because there's no other way to make it better, because there's sales is a fairly straightforward transaction. It's close from lead inbound close. There are certain toolkits you need to be able to do that job to the best of your ability beyond just the rep being good at doing it themselves. And because of how good AI is at synthesizing data and being plugged into various data pools we have, like our CRMs and email correspondence and other things, and then re-pulling that into profiling and then timeline durations and recommended updates and reignition emails and things like that, and drafting those things with full context parables around the correspondence that's happened, helping aid the sales rep to follow up as quick as possible, as sharp as possible, and enabling them to see their pipeline in extrapolations and views and graphs and timelines that are so intuitive that they know exactly what they're doing and how to be the most effective at sweating their pipeline, and ultimately doing the best job of helping the client get over the line. That is the toolkit they need. And I've built it, and it is insanely good. And it's going to literally, within 1 week of building this thing, it's going to give 30 to 40% of our reps time back, like straight away. It's going to give them that time back, but their output is probably going to 3-4x, just based on how much they'll be able to follow up and keep on top of their pipeline, to a point where we'll just be able to give them more leads. So the disproportionate impact of this technology in 1 week of application for me is going to be huge. And we've also, whilst I've been building this one, Matt's been on the other computer with the other bot, building a refurbs project management tool, smart, bot enabled, in and out, start to finish project management, Gantt charts, procurement reporting, scopes, pricing, materials, subcontractor framework agreements, everything all built into this tool within 2 weeks, because he started building it the first week on Replit. The bot came out, we retransitioned it onto the bot account, and last week's been building it this way. And it's a phenomenal tool. And we're going to sack off Monday. We're going to build a hive mind system that I've spoke about before, like for years, that I was like, the second AI is there, we're going to build a complete hive mind system that has syntax in every part of the business and pulls data in and pulls comms in to make everyone's lives more efficient. Every single person in the company is going to have their own bot, their own workspace and dashboard within that hive mind, where they can see and have context between every other department and the clients, and make sure information flows are clean, and make sure that they're prompted to do work that they otherwise may not have intuitively thought of, and enabling AI to help staff do much more and do a much better job, and to ultimately save us money. So as a business, we're building that moat and we're protecting ourselves. And I'm also going to add a functionality that maybe is a little bit left of field. You might not necessarily think about this intuitively, but I'm going to make sure that relationship between the staff member and the bot and the AI is not just a Pandora's box of, oh, it just helps me loads on this and this and that, but I'm not entirely sure what it does. I've built profiling and widgets and context and bios between the bot and the bot and the staff member, so that the staff member can see how much the bot knows them. Does it know what football team they like? Does it know what their morning and evening habits are? Does it know where they went to school and how they grew up and things like that? Because that context is actually really important to help the bot understand them more, to become more of a companion to them. Not that I want them to think that the bot's their friend, but I want them to think that it's the best PA they could ever have. And the more it knows about them, and Jack, you can attest to this, the more your PA knows about you, the more they can help you, the more they know your habits, the way you like doing things, the way you like writing things, and all those kind of things. So I want to build a visual of that within their profiles, and I've already started it, and it looks great. And it means that they can be prompted to go, and the bot can go, look, I don't actually know anything about your interests. And then they can insert their interests and help the bot. And for the sales guys, that's great, because then that can help disseminate rapport building exercises and information and stuff like that as well as for staff members. So there's so much, and that will help from a HR perspective as well, so there's just so much that this toolkit can do. It is insane. What do you need to set it up? You need a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio. You need to get an OpenClaw account. Then you need to set up a couple other bits, and you can go subscribe to an Anthropic. I'd suggest using Anthropic, which is the AI provider, if you like. I'm going to try and make these terminologies as simple as possible so you can understand. You've got the hardware, which is the Apple computer, which is the Mac Mini or the Mac Studio. That's the hardware. And then obviously plugged into the internet, you get OpenClaw, which is the tool that is going to enable the bot to live within your computer and within your workspaces. And then you use the compute power you're going to get from Anthropic, which you pay credits for. And that charges, that like gives the energy to your OpenClaw that then lives on your computer. And then you also have to do a few, little techie bits to like log into stuff and give it permissions. But bear in mind, you can ask ClaudeBot on Anthropic how to do those things when you're setting it up. So the first thing you can do is set up a ClaudeBot account on Anthropic's website, which is just like ChatGPT. And you can go, I am going to set up my own bot account on a Mac Mini. Can you help me with the setup? Where do I start? And just follow the instructions like you would an instruction manual. If you don't understand anything, go, can you make that simpler for a layman to understand? This is basically what we did to set it up and build it. And then we built it. And then from there, it's then on your own initiative to dig into the weeds. And I've just been watching podcasts, videos, nerds online talking about all this kind of stuff, testing and trialing things with the bot, asking it loads of questions. And you just learn like anything else. You just learn the new skill sets. But the upside is phenomenal. Like, I wish I could show you the sales portal that I've built, but it's obviously got sensitive information on it, so I can't show that publicly. But it's four sub pages, and within those 4 sub pages, it's everything a rep needs in the exact way that rep would want that functionality to work to make their life the easiest possible. And it is insane, and I'm going to keep doing it. And we've got a 6-month plan. We've got our AI software developer plugged in. I've got another meeting with him today. He's plugged into the back end to help make it more stable and secure and make sure that we've got the guardrails in there as me and Matt are in build mode, analyzing and speaking to staff members in the business, looking at their processes, their workflows, the different softwares we use, pulling those API keys, trying to make those things proprietary. The sales guys now no longer need Monday.com, so they're going to pull them off Monday, and I'll keep pulling everyone off of Monday and build proprietary systems as we go so that we own the tech, we own the IP, we control the data, and it's a malleable system that we can build exactly to our use case. And it's going to be, this is the game in 2026, ladies and gents. If you don't build something and you don't use these toolkits to build something that is the best enabler for you and your staff, you're just missing a huge trick. Property developers generally should be pretty sound, but if you're in SaaS or you're in some service-based business that generally does a lot of work through a laptop and you don't do this, I just think you get eaten alive by competitors who do. And eventually developers will get eaten by the same thing as well. But we might have a little bit more time in our industry because there's a lot of analog things you've got to do in our sector. But a lot of those can be enabled and helped through this kind of technology. So that's what I'd say. Now, Jack, bear in mind that context. What would you look at in your businesses? You've got XP, you've got Central Suites, you've got obviously the main dev business. What would applications be that you think would be like a huge enabler? What's the lowest hanging fruit that you would want to use something like this for?
For everyone to have assistance in like the admin side of the work. So like typically, like for an example, our project manager, a huge amount of his work is admin. And he's not cheap. So he's a high cost per hour employee. And that's because there's high value there. But if you could eradicate a lot of his admin, potentially so for an example, we do an internship program every summer where Reading University basically provide us with some interns that we take through the summer program. We've actually hired some off the back of it. Sad for the interns, but this bot could be that intern for one setup fee and time and allocation, but then not have any sick days, operate while you're not operating, be more consistent with understanding you, have better work longevity because a bot doesn't leave your company for another company for more money, or hopefully we're not going to be in that space for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, how crazy is that? If you built a bot so good that they then get offered a job somewhere else and they take it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good idea for a recruitment business, like headhunt bots. And there'll probably be companies out there that do exactly what you've done and charge a fee to set you up. So you just go, hi, Ryan, I need a bot for this.
I mean, I could take the tool I've built. I could go to any sales company, like any company that does sales, and go, look at this, and they'll bite my arm off for it because I'm showing a PE company today. A friend of mine runs a PE company in London, and I know his type of sales and what he does. And I'm sitting down with his tech team later on to show them what I've built. And because I briefly explained it to him, and he went, "Fucking hell, mate. Yeah, go on, let's have a look at that." And every company could do, and I could license it, sell it, do things like that. But just as quickly as I do that, other people could also just go and make it. So to me, I want to use it as an enabler and use it as my advantage in the space to get ahead of competition rather than the money I could make licensing it. But you're right, though. You could do that.
What other lower hanging fruit is there? Like lettings, surely there's like systemization and management there. Like we have people in the team that can go to the property and help people with their particular issues. But if we had a bot look at every communication we've ever had with a tenant and then basically be the heart and soul of lettings, so outreach, inreach, dealing with problems, managing problems, and then only pushing the cream of the problems, the bigger problems, the unsolvable problems, because they're not physically able to drive to the property and fix that issue. Lettings, I think there's easy wins.
What about sourcing and appraising sites?
Sourcing and appraising sites for sure. I mean, it's all. I think the easiest wins are all the things that you would give to a virtual assistant. Is the easiest way to summarize it. If you think about your business and think, what could I give a VA? I mean, VAs have been around for ages, whether they're South African, Filipino, whatever location your typical virtual assistant might be in. There's virtual assistants in the UK people that work as VAs for other businesses. If you think to yourself, what is a VA job? That would be a good one. Bookkeeping, HR, tax management, personal life management, diarising. I mean, it does. The list goes on, right?
Yeah, it does.
And like you say, the job is getting more digital, right? So every role, like my dad still doesn't understand. He's an old builder. He still doesn't understand how I can build a development company with a laptop. He's like, what the fuck can you do with that? I can.
Yeah.
You know, he just doesn't understand that, and that's generational change.
But why, Jack? Why is it? And the fundamental reason why a laptop can do it, and for most industries it's true now as well, is because intelligence, and not necessarily human intelligence, but obviously that's important as well, but the intelligence in the machines and their ability to disseminate information and to extrapolate it in certain ways and to be that useful to you with this different software tools and applications that are out there, you can simply do so much more from a laptop than you can by going to meetings and trying to do those things in person. Now plug AI into that thing and it's just a massive accelerator for that very thing that your dad's kind of referring to. And the same way your dad looks at you and goes, what can you do on that laptop? That's the same thing that people are now going to do to people who use a laptop and are not using a bot. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be the same kind of principle where why would you not be using a bot like a 24/7 assistant, you know?
The crazy thing looking back at like the generational gap is back in the days when my dad was a business owner, the whole world moved slower, right? The whole world didn't have digital frictionless movement. You couldn't do a Teams meeting. You'd have to drive there, meet them, drive back. So there was less time in the day. There was less efficiency. So the whole world moved slower. So to take a really macro lens at this, you could stay doing the same things that you've been doing without the support of digital AI, whatever it may be, but you're now moving slower than the market. My dad was probably moving quicker than the market because he was a successful business owner. But if he was dropped into business now, he would be the slowest business owner because he wouldn't do Zoom calls. He wouldn't use a laptop. He would do everything physically and on the phone, drive there, drive back. And he has a massive disadvantage. So what you're alluding to and encouraging listeners to look at is how can you be at the head of the game, the fastest mover in the market, the most efficient, the most dynamic, because it's there for everyone to have a go at. And if you're not doing it now, you're going to be slower. Well, you're slower adoption in it. The growth curve is. I love the phrase: if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards, which is completely true because everything else is going forward.
And it's worth mentioning that these things aren't cheap for now. They're very cheap relative to the upside. But if you are an SME, like if you're a small business owner and you've got to be cautious of cash flow, then I'll give you an example of how much it's costing. We've got 2 bots up and running. Me and Matt every day, pretty much flat out, are building and building and building. And it's going to cost us. It'll cost us about $8,000, $9,000 a month in compute. That's what that will cost us. The setup is about $3,000 to $5,000 for the hardware, which is a one-off cost. So 3-5 grand set you up. The cost of the compute that you pay for in credits to Anthropic, so for the intelligence, it will cost us about 8 grand a month. If we were just running one, then it costs 4 grand a month, because it's about 2 grand, about 4 grand a piece, a grand a week. But once you've built an application and then your team's using it, then the costs massively come down, because you can localize a lot of the work onto your computer. So you need the best spots on the market, which are stuck through API walls, i.e. you've got to pay another company to use that intelligence. But as that intelligence keeps moving up and gets better, the older models that are now less intelligent than the frontier models, you can download onto your laptop. They become open source. That's just the way this market works, because it's advantageous to those that open source them. And you can put that on your laptop, and then that can run the basic tasks of managing the software, and that's free. So you might still want certain tasks, like for our sales guys, when we want to synthesize emails and things like that, we want to use the best models because it's a high value task. So it's probably going to cost a bit more to run the sales application than it will to cost to run the refurbishment management application, for example. But you're talking like maybe £50 to £100 a day in credits tops. So a staff member's salary a month today. Now, next month, the pace of improvement of these AIs means next month, that cost is probably going to come down like 20%. And every 7 months, they're doubling in power. So in 7 months' time, it'd be half the cost to do the same work. So it's a cost curve reduction. The cost curve's going like that. The intelligence is going like that, which means start building now. It's going to be quite expensive. It'll cost, like, it does stack up a bit, but the upside of the application is way worth it. It's just you've got to be cautious of cash flow, because it comes out every time you run out of credits. You're then paying in cash terms to update it. But over time, the disproportionate upside you get out of that application and the efficiency gains will pay for itself and then some. And also, the more you build and the continuously you keep building, it will get cheaper and better as time goes on, like just all the time in perpetuity. So just to give an example of the costs, it's not free. It is a bit costly. It's quite costly depending on how much you're building. If you're just building a PA that you want to help you out in diarization and a bit of life management, then it's not going to cost you much at all. But if you're a business owner that's trying to build applications to enable your team and like really go into the weeds of synthesizing existing data sets you've got within CRMs and management tools and things like that, then obviously it's doing a lot of compute work, and that just costs you money. But you can offset it by using localized models, which you can just ask the bot how to do that, and it can do that. And then it will be cheaper when you're running it. So bit of tech talk there.
Can I ask a question? This is a layman question. So let's say you're building a bot to be a personal assistant. So I've gone and bought a Mac Mini. I've gone and bought a phone. I've gone and plugged this assistant into me and my system, and it's learning me, and it's now my PA, right? So it's doing like various bits and bobs that is systemized. They can easily understand with language models and basically generate the progress of my day, book diarizations, reply to emails, etc. Why can't that PA then just be a PA for the whole business? So every individual person, could a bot get overloaded?
For our reps, we've built a sales bot. We call it Sales Bow. And then we've got Ops Bow. That's a separate hardware device, separate bot with its separate intelligence set. That's doing the operational stuff. So for the sales team, they've got one bot, if you like. That bot has an overarching knowledge base of the company, what we do, the stuff we're building, how we work, how the reps work, and things like that. It's an overarching memory. It's memory.md is in the code base. But what we've done is set parameters so that it also has like a sub memory account for each of the individual reps, so that the rep itself is building the way they like working, the way they like personalizing stuff or writing emails and things like that. There is a code base that backs the way that they like doing that and improves with every interaction. So it's constantly getting better and knowing that rep based off that rep's phone number, their email, and their profile. So you can build that as a subdomain to the main knowledge base that benefits from all of this intelligence, but you can silo it so that if Neil, for example, one of our reps, likes writing emails a certain way and wants to improve the bot so that the bot's writing them in a certain way, that doesn't cross-contaminate Ash, who's another rep, who might be writing it in who wants to write in a different kind of way. He might like to extend sentences and add a different kind of grammar in there, or he might like bold title formats, and Neil might not like that. So we've tried to silo the memory banks for each individual rep, and each individual rep only has certain permissions to access the code. Only admins can access the code and change certain things and parameters and instructions. And by doing that, you can control it in a way. But in the limit of it, let's say we had 100 reps, the compute that would cost and would cause hardware constraints on the RAM and the usage we get out of the machine. Now, you could use server cloud APIs and AIs and things like that and run like virtual machines and stuff, but it gets a little bit fiddly and complicated. But you could do that, or you can spawn sub-agents, which is something our bot does do. It spawns another AI to do certain tasks. But generally, our business is too big to have one bot on a 28 gig RAM Mac Mini be able to hold all of that company information, have all those profiles, and be able to perform tasks for everyone at once, like all the times they're working on it day to day. So we have to split the bots into different hardware devices and make sure their memory bank is specialized to those tasks. Otherwise, the code just becomes massive, and you could have like 300,000 lines of code, and it's then got to search through all that code every time it's trying to perform the task for a given department. Instead, you just make it departmental. So the sales and marketing bow is focused on that, because it's always going to be trying to disseminate information and knowledge for those staff members that work in a similar vein. Then ops bow, whilst it has very similar knowledge base of the business and how it works, that's focused much more on enabling those staff members on operational activities. So that's why you kind of split them. But yes, if it's just a PA for each member, that could work. But if their workflow is quite different, then it might need a different knowledge base set, and you risk confusion in the AI and not fully understanding what one admin task is for a certain staff member compared to the nature of another admin staff. And it might get a bit complicated to do that. You might just want different bots for the departments, and then it would work.
Yeah, interesting. So robots have limitations too, essentially.
For now, but they get better and better. Every day they're getting better.
They need to get a life.
They do need to fucking
get on with it.
Mate. Literally, get a life. But anyway, that takes us to the hour mark, mate. It's been a wild episode. Wow. What an episode it has been, up and down. A lot of rambling. Me and Jack got on this at 7 and went, oh shit, we don't have a docket. And then just spam one up in about 5 minutes. And this has been the result of it. So hopefully you've enjoyed.
Yeah, I reckon we're going to get some lefty hate.
Oh, hate on us. We love it. We love the hate. Fuck the left. But yeah, common sense will prevail, guys. Common sense will prevail, and AI
Commercialization will also prevail.
Commercialization.
Look at this, UK like a business.
A business. But subscribe, though. It helps us. Please do subscribe.
Subsqualor.
Big love. Episode 98 next. Climbing up towards the 100 mark. Have a bloody good weekend and a bloody good week whenever you're watching this episode. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Round up sound. Ooh, yeah.